have your camera on.
Oh, it turned on, right? Oh, sorry. I thought that I. All right. Hi. Yeah. How's it going?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good.
Are you prepared for the interview?
Yes, somewhat.
Okay, good. You just need to be confident and answer what you know. That's all that's
Right.
needed. Yeah. I hope they'll be joining in 2 minutes or so.
Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, alright, how are you? Oh, good.
Good. This is our candidate Azim.
Hi, Marcelo.
Hello,
Hello.
nice to meet you, Azim.
Nice to meet you as well.
I believe Haley should be joining soon.
Hi. Hi guys, apologies for being a bit late, but I was having an issue with my laptop and I had to restart.
He's our candidate Azim. I'll be sharing myself now.
I think we can start right then. We can start off with a quick round of introductions. My name is Haley. I am the online development team lead here at Go. Together with me there is Marcelo. Marcelo, we can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, hello, Azim, nice to meet you. I'm Marcelo, I'm from Brazil, working here at Go for 2 years and a bit more, and we'll be explaining to you what we do, our products, our tech stack. Yes, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Can
Hi,
you tell us a
Marcelo.
bit more
Hi, Haley.
about yourself, Azim? Your work experience, the projects you've been working on?
All right. So myself, Azim. I graduated my engineering degree in 2011. Initially, I have started my career as a technical support, and later I started as a software engineer. For the last 5 years, I have been working in mobile application development. So I have been working with the remote clients with the UK, US, German, and Jordan as well. And mostly in my projects, my primary technologies are iOS, and I have worked in macOS application for Apple project as well, and for Flutter as well I have worked. The other things apart from this iOS and macOS is augmented reality. I used to write articles for the artificial intelligence, and I did some remote project which is for the Unity game integration to a native iOS as well. And mostly I have done projects which is for the Unity and also with the integrations to the native iOS applications. And most of the projects apart from that is augmented reality, which is for the avatar motion body tracking, multiple avatar, the hand gestures, all these things. And I also worked in the WebSocket as well for controlling the pixel blaze, all these things. And other things which are apart from those, including the AR, I have did recently the project which is for the Stanford University. Actually, that project was to identify dynamically the object measurement, all these things by using the AR technology and also with the vision technology. And the project which I did in Flutter is related to the banking, that is for a US client, and it's having several security features, all these things. There are other features like a download statement, all these things, and also QR code. That's all related to the Flutter application which I did. I have been working in Flutter for nearly 2 years, and I have trained two junior developers after when I was leaving that project. So currently, I'm working as a functional designer and also the architecture and solution, which means I'm writing documents for an Angular project. That's for the last 3-4 months, which I'm doing at the moment, and that is for the Angular web application project, which is for the Canadian National Railway project. So that's my overall experience, and I have 8 years of experience, including that 5 years I have worked in the mobile development.
Alright, that's good. Let me explain a bit what this role is about so that you get a full understanding of what we're doing here at Go. So first of all, Go is a telecoms operator here in Malta, and our team is responsible both for the web and for the mobile app delivery. Right now, we have our public pages where we promote all our products and services on the web, and we have two web portals where a customer can log in and manage his services, one for the residential, one for the business customer. Together with these three running websites, we have our mobile app where as well a customer can log in and manage his services. There are some different functionalities. The app is more targeted to most commonly used functionalities. And right now, the ones that we have posted on our stores are native applications developed in Android using Kotlin and iOS in Swift. However, around June, July this year, July, I think, something around that time frame, we started migrating our current code base to Flutter, essentially for one main reason. We want to be faster to market when it comes to delivering our applications. In reality, Flutter has a lot of advantages. Of course, you have one code base, so it gives us a lot of advantages from this aspect. And of course, then you can have two resources instead, rolling out more features. And we have a massive online roadmap that we would like to execute, from doing sales online, assisting the customer with managing his services. So there's a lot of things that we would like to implement from our side, and this was one way of doing it. Do you have any questions on this?
Yeah, so currently the applications are in Flutter, right?
Well, the ones that we have on the store at the moment
This
were
app
developed natively.
natively.
But yes, now
Yeah,
we're
going to start
converting
for
to
the
Flutter.
Flutter so that the cross-platform, so that we can use in one same domain, and product will be released as soon as possible, and the bugs everything else in
Exactly.
the single platform. I understand. So what's the
Exactly. So
yeah? So once you release the Flutter application, what about this native one? Are you going to remove? Or
exactly, those would be the commission, and this is essentially the direct replacement of the existing app. So we're suffering a bit more now in terms of features because we've essentially halted them, but then at the end of the day, next year it would allow us to be more agile when it comes to releasing the features. As well, the original project was outsourced, and there were some issues when it comes to architecture, and we're now following the original pattern that we had actually agreed upon, where we have a server-driven UI architecture, whereas the components that we show on a front-end point of view are controlled by the backend using a REST API that determines the components that must be rendered on each page. It returns the model for us. So this allowed us as well to revamp the architecture, which would then again allow us to scale easier when we're rolling out new features on the app.
okay, currently it's in development, right?
It's
And
currently in development, and we're looking to grow our team essentially to help with this.
yeah, so I saw your website, like it's a Go, and it's like
Yes.
for the TV and mobile streaming, all these things, right? Okay, okay.
Yes,
I
so
know.
Go is a telecoms operator offering 4P services. We offer mobile, TV, fixed, and home internet, both for residential and business customers. We have some added products as well, like for example, selling devices with our mobile plans. For businesses especially, we have dedicated services. We offer IoT, APIs, as well as virtual PAB access. So there's a number of things that we do as a telco provider. We're the largest telco provider here in Malta. It's been operating for a really long time. It was the first operator that opened up in the country. And yes, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so are
Um,
these APIs working in a VPN, or do you use VPN for this runtime?
Do we use VPN to connect with our services, do you mean?
Yes, yes.
Mela, it depends. So when we're working on our test and staging environments, yes, I have a VPN setup, and that would allow us to connect to our internal APIs. But then again, we have an API gateway over which we're exposing the APIs for the public, of course. But then when you have a website running and when you have a mobile application running, you need to connect to the APIs, and we do that via the API gateway that we have configured here at Go. Still, for testing and staging environments, and Flutter is still in development at the
Okay.
moment, those would be, yes, abstracted. Good. I think we can proceed with the next part of the interview, unless you have more questions, which is more of a technical one. We'll start off with some architecture-related questions, and then we'll delve a bit more on Flutter. So Flutter is the most important area for us, of course, since we're working on Flutter. But however, this role, apart from developing on the Flutter project, you would also be required to support on the older applications should there, for example, need to be any urgent maintenance as we go along, which hopefully there wouldn't be. Good. So let us start off with the first question, and it's related to Firebase. Can you explain to me, first of all, what features you've used from Firebase, and then we'll take it from there, actually.
All right, the Firebase I have used for the integration with the Gmail, Facebook, all these things, and also with the Twitter, and APIs are also managed with the Firebase itself. And then I've started with the Firebase, then I started with the Firestore as well, so that they have a complex structures. That's also related to something banking app. That's a native application, iOS. I used to work in Firestore as well, and then for most of the push notifications, we are using this Firebase altogether. Yeah. So I worked in a Firestore, Firebase, and also in the push notifications for this platform.
I'm taking notes, so that is why sometimes I don't answer immediately. Have you made use of the analytics and Crashlytics feature from them?
Yes, of course. We have one. There are few applications which we did for a DHL client, and they want this to be done in for the crash analytics, because that application works in both with network and also without network. Okay, DHL is a client because they are using for internal employees, which means that they may go to remote areas. So that application is meant for both with use of internet, and also without internet we have to give the data and all these response, everything else. But we are storing the data in the realm, but that app have too many data. In some cases, if the realm is not working properly, this can crash. So we are using crash analytics with the Firebase for that logistic application. And whenever this crash gets analyzed, we used to get from which part of the code we got crashed, and from there we used to work on that.
For the other applications, out of curiosity, so you're saying specifically for this application you've used Crashlytics. How were you?
Applications as well, I did some golf application as well. That's also nerd too, and in that application also we have been using crash analytics, because they have a complex payment gateway method and all these things. Video uploading, all these things to W3 bucket and all. So those times they may get crashed when a huge amount of video gets uploaded. So in those applications also I have worked in crash analytics.
Alright. I still am curious, for those applications where you didn't implement Crashlytics, how were you identifying if there were any issues on your code base?
Actually, once we did, we can start analysis, which means that once we did Firebase, all these linking with the app bundle ID, everything else, once we register the application to the Firebase, we can get that crash analytics get implemented by using our import file, or else by import those framework into our application. Once that's implemented into particular controller or else the particular widget, we can write some codes that in order to analyze or start observing these things. So after that, once we register and go to the crash analytics page, once we trigger on the start rendering, it will start checking whenever we are running the application. Is there any crash happening in some any of our page or screen, somewhat like that? So that it also, there is also another way we can get the logs as well. Okay. Actually, one of the application I did in a log, which means that it can run without the internet, as I said. So how we analyzed is by using a log, which means this Firebase integration, we have written some internal code inside, so that the logs we get. So from the logs, we can find that where this application have some crash or something happen within the application from the analytics.
Alright. On crash analytics, there are 3 types of errors that could be reported. Do you know what they are?
And 3 types of analytics.
On crash analytics, so failures could be reported in 3 ways.
I don't know the 3 ways actually.
Do you understand what is the difference between a fatal and ANR?
A fatal are something which means if the app couldn't go more ahead, which means that if some condition we write, it couldn't satisfy, that is fatal error. Okay, so that's a critical error actually. And
What happens from a customer point of view for a fatal error?
Fatal error shouldn't be happening, because that's say for internal use. We are checking internally for if there is a fatal error, and we should make responsible for that. It should not happen. For example, this crash report helps you to track, prioritize, and also the fix the stability issues to improve the code quality. For example, I would say that it's a stability issue actually.
And do you know what ANR is?
What?
ANR. I'm typing it for you.
ANI.
ANR.
I don't know actually what's that.
Alright, that's application not responding. Again, it's a very critical error that you should be looking for when an issue is being reported on Firebase. You said you have experience with Firestore, right? There's also the real-time database from Firebase. Are you aware of that?
Database. Yeah.
The real-time database.
In terms of Firestore, what was the use case that you choose Firestore and why?
That was actually for pharmaceutical application, which means that they have in one single tree there are too many collections, which means that there will be sub collection. From that there will be huge amount of sub collection. So it's like a tree-like structure altogether. And Firestore are easy to store very quickly compared to Firebase, but when you compare with the Firebase and the Firestore, the Firestore is much more expensive, because we need to pay after securing this much huge amount of data. We need to pay for that. So that's the difference actually. But Firestore is much more faster.
If I had to ask you, when would you make use of the Firebase Firestore or a normal database? It could be a NoSQL database or an SQL database. Why would you make use of the Firestore database versus, say, you spin MongoDB, document base is still JSON, and you interface with the REST API, for example? Why would you make use of one versus the other?
Actually, in Firebase, mostly is SQL database, NoSQL database actually. Okay, and the main part is actually.
Can I stop you there? What is the difference then between a NoSQL database, a document-based MongoDB, all right, and Firestore? What is one critical difference?
The difference is actually in SQL is, apart from Firebase, we already have another database is SQL. Okay, and in Firebase there are certain things we can store as NoSQL, and also which means that it's main because of the rendering issues, and also if we have it is also related to the security as well. And it depends on the company which makes the choice that you want the SQL or no SQL database.
Both of them store JSON at the end of the day.
Hmm.
So there's one key difference between them where you say I would opt for one or the other.
Actually, SQL is relational like database, which means that it records in rows, tables with logistics.
Yes,
And
I'm saying no SQL,
no
no
SQL,
SQL, no
it is
SQL, document based. Yes, now
it
I'm
is
saying if I had to spin up MongoDB have their cloud service as well. I can store a document based structure via collections versus Firestore real-time database or
MongoDB.
Firestore or real-time database.
MongoDB is based on a non-relationship document model. Okay, non-relational document model, which means that in SQL it's like a relational database, which means a relational database. What I mean is it's a rows, tables with logistical links between them. There are logistical, but no SQL is somewhat is non-relational, and MongoDB is also similar, like it's a non-relational database.
Yes, now I'm telling you. If you had to choose between MongoDB and Firestore, how would you decide which one you would use?
I will choose Firebase because that's more
Why?
convenient. Because as I said, it's rationally we can use that.
No, the reason is because Firestore it's real time. It
Yeah,
works
it's
through
real time.
WebSockets, and any change on the the database itself would be immediately updated since it works through WebSockets on the front end. If you can still implement something similar with MongoDB, but then that logic you have to implement it yourself.
Mm.
Firestore offers this out
One
of the
time you
box.
implement
So
there.
this is why you would use one or the
Yeah,
other.
it's as fast as and real time. That's what we can say.
I have one question from my side. When rolling out your applications to production, there are two ways how you can roll out your applications. You can roll them out immediately, or you can opt for a phased rollout. Do you know what the difference is?
While you want to release the application, yeah.
When releasing it to production, you've already done the beta testing, you've already gone through that process, the internal testing is done, you are about to release to the customers out there. You can roll it out in two ways. There's the phased rollout and there's the immediate rollout. Which one would you opt for?
Immediate phased rollout,
Mm-hmm.
so that a few sets of our team can also check when it's in even then it's in production. They have a time to check in between as before going to the client main role. If you go directly means there is a thing that we need to completely test and everything else that should be perfect, and also if it is everything fine, then it can go for this immediate rollout as well. In some cases that client has some target time that you have to release today this time, so in such cases this immediate rollout will be utilized. Production.
What would you be tracking whilst the phased rollout is ongoing?
Phased rollout,
Yes.
that mostly it can also be used with internally as well. Okay, why even though it's in production, we have a time to check internally.
Right.
But when it's in the rollout process, what are the key aspects that you need to keep watching and to make sure it's a successful rollout? What do you usually do?
That means this have to be everything tested by the QA, and it is approved from everywhere else. Then it's to be it's for completely rollout. Or
I think
else
we lost
we
him.
can say that the software integration was every implementation we have followed all every business rules. So we should make sure we have followed every business rules, initiation, planning, execution, everything else. Then we wrapping up all those things, and that needs a lot of coordination and detailed oriented working as well. So once that complete, we can say that it's ready for rollout, or else we can say that there are steps to automatically deploy. So those are the things like it's a scheduled task actually.
All right, and then when it goes to the rollout phase, how you monitor that it is healthy and running properly? Which kind of data you collect and you watch for during the rollout phase?
During the runout phase, we can check in App Store. We have a tool within there itself to check how this is running, performing, how many screens the user is watching too much. All these things we can analyze from the App Store, iTunes Store itself. There are similarly this Android also have, but there is another way to analyze is a Firebase as well. We can analyze how many users are using, how many of them are using which screens, and if they face any issue, we have a feedback as well more to give. So those whole things.
All right, and then, for example, if you see that you start to receive a lot of crashes or ANRs, and what you usually do?
While in production or before release?
While you are in the rollout phase.
While in the rollout phase means if I found crash means that's a critical, okay. So what I need to first is we need to debug. In some cases in some cases the crash won't happen as well. So we need to check whether is there any memory leakage happening because of this crash, or else is there every loop is performed correctly, and we need to
There's
check if any network.
something that you have to do before, even before that, before debugging. There's something that you have to do if you see that there are a lot of crashes. What is it?
While debugging,
You see, you've had a good night's sleep, you've rolled out in the evening, you wake up in the morning and you see 200 crashes whilst there's a rollout. What do you do? What is the first thing that you do?
in such case, the first thing which I need to do is I need to analyze myself whether what's the reason for that crash.
The first thing that you do is you have to stop the rollout.
Yeah, you need to stop the
So
rollout.
that you only affect a subset of the customers. That's the first thing that you do. Then you debug, yes. So how do you do then?
Okay.
And now continue. How would you continue then? You debug, you find the issue, you fix it, right? And you need to roll it out again.
Yeah.
Agreed? The fix.
Yeah. And one more thing is we need to check whether maybe we are using the QA environment or using the development environment, that there may be not a crash, but it can happen only in the production. In such cases, we need to analyze that if it happened after the release, first thing I agree that you need to stop the rollout and then debug these things you didn't get in the deployment. Okay, you check for the production environment by checking it manually. We can check that, and if there is any crash from there, or we need to check whether any issues from there, because we already have, as I said, if we have analytics in some pages, we know that okay, this crash happened. In App Store also we can identify this crash happened in this. Okay, so from there in test flight, or when we upload directly to the App Store, for example, we can see that okay, there is a test flight was also getting there, and from there if any crash happen means I can get analytics from within that, and from that page or else the user have an option as well submit feedback. Forget about that. So in that case means I can go to this production environment and check that URL and find that if there is any issue, or else if there is any memory issue also we already checked and we have been rolled out, but we can check in the production environment if there is an issue.
Now let's say you fix the issue and you're rolling out a new release with the fix, all right? And you are still receiving crashes on Crashalytics because you have users who are still on the older version of the application. They still haven't received the update, all right? Or they still haven't installed it. What mechanisms would you implement on the app to ensure that they upgrade to the latest version of your application?
That we can check if the user is using the previous version of that, But then we can make a pop-up within the application showing that you have a latest version in our store. Update that. Two option. They can click later means if they will go later. If we can forcefully want them to do means we can forcefully also do that. So that they use once if we can analyze that, or if the user is using the previous version, something like that, we have an updated one by fixing all the bugs. So we can give a pop-up to the user, so that this pop-up will show up and say that okay, we have a latest version. So the user will identify, okay, I have something new there, so that user can do update the application.
And you check against what? How do you check that you need to upgrade? Against what do you check? How would you implement it in the code? And where would you implement it as well?
While the app is launching, okay, while we did appear or whatever in the initial state of the application, we can check which version of this application is running. We can check within the code, and if it is a previous version, we can make up, okay, this is need to update. That's a pop-up we can.
And how do you check? How does it work?
They have properties which is like to get the app versions what we are using, okay. By string we can get which version of the application is the currently user is using, and if we can set a code like that, okay, if it is in a previous one, show this pop-up, or else and else true or false both, we can implement that.
I understood the part where you said that you get the current version from the code base. You can get the current version that you're currently running on, but how would you make sure that, if it says, from where would you be checking that you need to force upgrade? Against what are you checking? Where would you store this information?
We can store at the initial stage, which means I said in the app launching section.
And from where then do you control that you need to force upgrade or not?
We can when it comes into the main, I can write create state. I can write the function like that, which is the first screen which is going to show there, or else the launch screen, after the launch screen, when the application get in other terms, that in iOS we can say app delegate, we can check those things.
Right. I don't have
So-
any more questions from my end. Marcel,
just-
go ahead.
Just one more thing related to that. Just to understand, for example, if I open the app and I have an older version, how from my version on my app, the code would know that my version is the older one? I have my number. Against which version I check? How I can get the latest version?
Which means we can write two conditions, okay. We can check the current version of the application, and the current version of the application, or also the previous one, so that if that is the previous one, there is, and we can put that it is greater or something like that, or else we can check it is greater than this previous version, then it's okay, you can show, otherwise we cannot show like that.
So if I have version 2.0 and you release 2.1, from where I read that you released, how from the app perspective, the app would know that a new version exists? From where you load this new version?
In main we can check as an asynchronous method, okay, or else we can say that in the pubspec YAML, we already write this version, or these things was already there, okay. So there is a we can check in the main that that is pubspec version is equal to string or split to something else like that. We need to align while doing the development, or else we can get in iOS and all, we can set the info plist CF bundle version, use that. In Android it said that build.gradle, we get those things, and the usage is as I said, it's in the pubspec YAML. We have written the package, all these things, and the version, everything else, and from there we can get and try to identify within the application. And while we release, I can write something else. If in iOS, as I said earlier, I can write even in the app delegate to check this condition, or else from the Android Studio you can write it there from the Gradle or whatever. or else in the Flutter
Oh,
also we
right.
need to find. In the main we can check as well. That's all the methods.
All right. All right. Yeah, I don't have any more questions from my side as well.
Do you have any questions for us, Azim?
Yeah, what about this application? So how is the current process when you're planning to release this application? And this is having live streaming, all these things. As I expect, like it's a very big, which is having the top up, TV streaming, these videos, this OTT channel or streaming, all these things. Is it like that, or what's the application actually for?
All right, so the application is more related to functionality that the user would have to manage his services. We do have a streaming application, but the streaming application that we have today, it comes with the provider that we use to sell our TV services. So there's in fact another application that's managed by the TV team for the TV streaming. The application that we're responsible for is the application whereby a customer can manage his services. So he can, for example, get a set of credentials that would be used then for the TV Anywhere application. Paying bills, applying to services. There's the DNS service
DNS,
for
yeah.
security purposes, buying bundles, linking your mobile service, unlinking your mobile service, topping up. So these are the functionalities that you would find on our applications, migrating to different tariffs, for example. So it's more from a management point of view, not from a service point of view. Though it's something that we might be implementing in the future, should we want, for example, to have an agreement with the company that we work with and migrate the TV Anywhere functionality on our app, we could do it as well to have one streamlined application. But at the moment, we don't have that. We're more focused on the functionality. But it's something that we might look at once we then do the migration and we have more bandwidth to address these features.
Right. Good, good. Very good. Impressive. All right.
Do you have anything else that you need to ask us?
No, it's fine. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, and we will be getting back to you soon with the outcome of the interview. All right?
All right. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank
Good.
you. Have a
All right.
nice day.
See you then.
Bye bye.
Thank you.